Danke schön. Guten Abend. I'm sorry I won't go further because unfortunately I have learned German when I was young, so I am able to understand a little bit, but I have lost most of my German. I am so sorry for that. So I will speak in English. But it's a great joy to be with you tonight. It's my first time in Innsbruck. Not my first time in Austria, but my first time in your beautiful city and in this famous theological faculty. So I'm very honored and delighted to be with you to share about the experience of the Synod and how it can inspire us for the way forward, because now we are in this implementation phase as it was expressed, and I would like to draw from the experience and the final document of the Synod to invite you to be part of this implementation phase. So the title was Becoming a Synodal Church as Pilgrims of Hope, because we rediscovered with the Synod that really synodality is a constitutive dimension of the Church, but for many historical reasons, we have also, like me with my German, the Church has lost a little bit her experience and the language and the practice of synodality, not everywhere, but we are not yet a perfect synodal Church. So, in the light of the experience of the Synod, because we can speak a bit about synodality, there are now many interesting books, especially it's not new, but we can say the more we practice synodality, the more we understand it. It's really a learning by doing. And of course, before the Synod, that it was highlighted when I was in Boston College, I did a research on Synod and synodality. So when I was appointed at the Synod, I had already some kind of understanding. I was part of the Synod on Youth. But I continue to learn day after day. And I think that's the most important. And I hope if we are all together here, it's not just me to try to share with you some learnings, but synodality is really about a mutual learning. And I'm very happy also to see that in Austria, there are already some synodal teams, some experiences that will continue to enrich the whole Church. Just to have to come a little bit back, you know, the starting point of the Synod, this Synod of Bishop, it was more than a Synod of Bishop, and it was really the first time in all the history of the Church, the first time that a Synod was convoked for everybody. So in the preparatory documents that launched the process, and we published it in September 21, the first sentence was, the Church of God is convoked in Synod. So not only the bishops, but all the baptized, all the people of goodwill were asked to participate. So that was the starting point of the Synod. And at the end, we managed to have a final document that is like the way to gather the fruit of all this process and to understand how to become more and more a synodal church in mission. And in this final document, and almost all my quotes are from this final document, we have highlighted, as we experience and deepen our understanding of synodality, that it's about living the church, we can say, as home, as family. And that's one of an important image. To be a synodal church is to be the church as the family of God, to be a church that is a home for everybody. Not as a closed space, inaccessible, but open to welcome with a spirit of hospitality and inclusion. And we discovered more and more that the church is also the people of God walking with Christ. In it, everyone is called to be a pilgrim of hope. In it, in the church, everyone is called to be a pilgrim of hope. And the traditional practice of pilgrimage is a sign of this. So I wanted to connect with this expression to be pilgrims of hope, because you know it's the year of the Jubilee. And in a way, this Jubilee is the first follow-up of the Synod, because leaving the Jubilee, coming many pilgrims, we can every day from my office on the Via della Conciliazione, we saw so many people coming as pilgrims from all over the world to go to St. Peter, to the Holy Door. And in a way, what you live in a pilgrimage like this is exactly synodality, to walk together. And my point is that when, especially when you experience synodality, and I can share that not only me, but I think almost all the members of the Synod have experienced a path to foster hope for us and for the church and for the world. So that's why becoming a synodal church, we can say, is a way to be more and more a pilgrims of hope and to foster hope for so many people all around us in this world that is lacking of hope. You know well about this logo, this image of the synod that is expressing in a way what it is to be, to walk together as a pilgrim of hope. So from that, we will try to dive more in the experience and the document of the synod to understand more and more what it means to become a synodal church, to be a synodal church. The first basis, we can say, and foundation, is it is a call of God. It is a call of God. So being part of this synodal process, trying to take up the implementation, that is the most important phase of the synod. It's not what we have done already, even if it was important. The most important is what we will do now, to continue to put into practice in all our realities, parishes, dioceses, congregation, movements, but also universities, what it means to implement synodality in theological faculties, in a university, because if we want a synodal church, it starts also with Catholic school, with education, with universities. And what we have, I think what is very, very important is to root our desire or our commitment for synodality, not just in some people, they are very enthusiastic with that, others they are afraid, but to understand that it is the call of God for the church of the third millennium. Another way to speak about synodality and what we have experienced with the synod and what we are called to continue is, and I quote a theologian from Australia, Ormond Rush. I like to quote him because he has a very incisive sentence. He states, synodality is the Second Vatican Council in a nutshell. Synodality is the Second Vatican Council in a nutshell. So it's about the reception, to continue the reception of the Second Vatican Council, because it's not yet finished. Usually in the history of the church, those who have studied especially the history of synod and councils, they say that it needs around 100 years, 150 years to implement the fruits and the results of a council. So we have not finished, and in our mind, we are not yet completely minded with the vision of the Church of the Second Vatican Council. So synodality is the call of God to be the church in mission in the world of today. And if we live it and want to live it, it's a path of spiritual renewal. So it's demanding. It's demanding because it is about our own spiritual renewal, our own spiritual conversion, but it is also about structural reform. Maybe new structures or a way to renew some structures. But sometimes we miss one of the dimensions. So that's very important to work for the implementation. And all the last meeting I had those days with our Council of the Synod, with now a team to prepare the document we will publish, we always remind that. It's not just having guidelines for some structure. It's good to have synodal teams, but it's not enough. It's how you help all the church and those, especially the leaders in the church, to have a synodal mind. And it's about our spiritual dimension. At the heart of the synodal dynamic is the centrality of baptism, which binds us together as members of Christ's body. There is nothing higher than this baptismal dignity. That's a strong statement from the synod, but now it is how we live that everywhere. That we have all of us, our higher dignity is the baptismal dignity. We are all brothers and sisters in Christ. And in the way we live the mission, we really put into practice this equal dignity. That means, do we give the same weight to the voices of the poor, of those who are far from the church, of the children, because also the Holy Spirit can speak to the children. How we listen in all our realities to those who are voiceless. It's about all of us. So that's why, to continue this process, in a way, the synod, the different steps of the synod that you have been part of, local, diocesan, national, continental, the two assemblies in Rome, it's finished. But now you have this implementation phase according to our constitution for the synod, that is Episcopalis Communio, that is highlighting that if you just have a document that you you put on a shelf and you don't read it, it's not interesting. So for the first time, we really want, and well, I say we, but it's the Pope, who is asking really that the local churches are asked to continue their daily journey with a synodal methodology of consultation and discernment, identifying concrete ways and formation pathways to bring about a tangible synodal conversion in the various ecclesial contexts. So the synodal process is not concluded. We have this implementation phase, and the most important for this implementation phase, it is not just to read the final document, it's already nice. Who among you, just to have an idea, who among you has already read the final document? Well, congratulations. I hope after this lecture, everybody will be invited to read it. But it's not enough. What is asked, it's not just to read the final document, it is to continue the daily journey. So the daily journey in the faculty, in the family, in the parish, in the diocese, in the congregation, all kinds of ecclesial realities, with a synodal methodology of consultation and discernment. So the implementation phase is asking for a synodal reception of the fruits of the synod and a synodal reception of the final document. What was very powerful for us, and especially in the General Secretariat, we have been involved in the drafting of all the documents with authors, experts, but at each step, all our documents were the fruit of a process of discernment and of collective writings. For instance, when we received you know, all the synthesis from the Bishops' Conference. So we had the one from Austria, but also from all the countries. We gather a group of 25 theologians, experts from all over the world, and we went together into a retreat house out of Rome for 12 days. 12 days to pray, to discern, to share together, to try to see what is coming out of those syntheses, what are the communities, the different small groups, group together, personal prayer, liturgy. So it was really a process. And at the end, it was the fruit of a collective writing. And the final document of the synod is also the fruit of all of those among you who have been part of the synodal consultation at the different stage, especially in the diocesan phase, and then also. So it's coming from a synodal methodology of consultation and discernment. And we can't really understand it and receive it if we don't have the same kind of reception. And also why I insist on this document for the implementation phase, it is also because it's part, you know, directly at the end of the synod, when the document was voted with a great consensus, the Pope endorsed it immediately, because the Pope recognized that it was really the fruit of the Spirit and the fruit of a process of discernment in which, as Pope, he recognized that it was done in a way that is really the fruit of the listening of the Spirit. And the Pope really thanked us very warmly, because he stated, even me as Pope, I need to listen to you and to everybody. And doing this, and you know, highlighting that now the final document is part of the ordinary magisterium of the successor of Peter, he highlighted that this way, you know, it has to be accepted as authoritative for the life and mission of the Church, so it's not optional. It's part of the magisterium, and we have to share that. But doing that, the Pope affirmed something very important, that synodality is the appropriate interpretative framework for understanding hierarchical ministry. And the fact that he endorsed this document that was the fruit of this discernment and that the fruit of a consensus, you know, doing it, he expressed what it is to be a leader in a synodal style. He gave us a very concrete example. A leader in a synodal style is someone who will not decide alone, but by listening, consulting, discerning with others, leading a process that will try to bring consensus. And so implementing synodality now, and that's probably the most difficult, but also the most important, it's also about a new way to lead. Not from just a top-down, authoritarian, very personal way, like we have still in many places, but to lead in another style, by listening, consulting, and discerning. And the fact that the Pope has, you know, if the Pope had everything alone in his mind, the truth, the way to do, he wouldn't have opened a process of 3 years, and now, so it takes time, but if you do that, you will lead in a better way, you will take better decisions, and your decision will be better received. when we do that, that means it's just to be more and more what we are as church. Because the church has two constitutive dimensions. We can say synodal, the communal dimension, and hierarchical. So synodality is not at all about suppressing the hierarchy, but it is about living the hierarchy as Pope Francis highlights here, with this synodal style. And what does it mean? And that's one of an interesting fruit of the synod. We managed to draft a kind of definition, and I read this definition, and I invite you, we will do a kind of synodal exercise, as you listen to this definition, to try to identify for you the key elements for synodality and maybe to implement it in your own context. So I read this definition. Synodality is the walking together of Christians with Christ and towards God's kingdom in union with all humanity. Oriented towards mission, synodality involves gathering at all levels of the church for mutual listening, dialogue, and community discernment. It also involves reaching consensus as an expression of Christ rendering himself present, he who is alive in the Spirit. Furthermore, it consists in reaching decisions according to differentiated co-responsibilities. Along these lines, we can understand better what it means to say that synodality is a constitutive dimension of the Church. In simple and concise terms, synodality is a path of spiritual renewal and structural reform that enables the Church to be more participatory and missionary so that it can walk with every man and woman radiating the light of Christ. So, implementing synodality in your own reality is about enabling the Church to be more participatory and missionary so that it can walk with every man and woman. So it's not just a way to be the Church among us, but to be the Church walking with everybody, with all humanity, for the mission. I invite you to experience one of the key elements of synodality that is not expressed here. But for what you have seen and understood, what would you say is the key element of all the synodal process? Without it, I don't think we would have been able to draft this document. Do you have any idea?
Listening?
No?
Love?
No. Well, it can be also, but... Yes, the Holy Spirit. But to listen to the Holy Spirit, what do you need?
Pray.
Yeah. And for prayer? Silence. Silence. The key element of all the synodal process, and especially in the synod hall, was silence. The fact that regularly, after a few presentations or talks, or when we were doing on the round table the conversation in the Spirit, we took time of silence to let resonate what we have been listening to. So I will propose you to do this synodal exercise as a way. 1 minute in silence. Maybe you can read and reflect about this definition, how you can implement that and those elements in your own reality. 1 minute in silence. A very simple way to implement the spirit of synodality, and I have many, many examples of, for instance, in some theological faculty, now when they organize conference or meeting with the students, just they give regular time of silence between 2 lectures, and it changes everything. And you can do that in many other places. That's a small thing, but it's really to exercise ourselves more and more to have the spirit of synodality. So we will continue to explore more what it means in a way more concretely. To live synodality is this to become pilgrims of hope on the move. We can say synodality is a dynamic vision of being church and being Christians, always on the road through an ongoing discernment. And if you do that, if you really take time of silence, prayer, you listen to each one, you listen to the Holy Spirit, what you experience is something that transforms you. And for me, the best way to express what is the synod, I can say it's a transformative process. All of us who have been part of the synod, we are different now. Well, we are the same, but we have been transformed. And I can give you many examples of some bishops, for instance, who before the synod, they were very reluctant, sometimes rather aggressive about that. They didn't understand, or they did. And then they had a way to experience the process, and now they are the best promoter of synodality. But if you look at synodality or at the synod from outside, and you don't experience it, you don't understand it. So the only way to put synodality into practice, and that's our challenge for the implementation phase, even if we are always happy to do it, some presentation, but it's not enough. It's only to open space for that kind of experience. So if you want to implement synodality everywhere where you are, try to find some round tables. They can be also in different, and organize like a mini synod or a conversation in the spirit with all the ingredients, all the elements we add in the synod. Do that in your parish, in your... and when people test it, usually they adopt it because they see the fruits. And the fruits, we can say, the core notion to understand synodality, and that's, I could say here, it's a kind of hermeneutical key for the final document, is this notion of exchange of gifts. Exchange of gifts. That's a way to live synodality. It's a vision that everybody has something to give and everybody has something to receive. Many cardinals or bishops who were at the synod, some they were already very, they had already the experience to collaborate with women or to be at the same table with women. For others, it was very new. At the beginning, they were a little bit like this. But then, you know, especially the second session, well, because I will speak about that after, but it was experiential. And they discovered that really listening to other lenses, to other voices of non-bishop, of women, of young people, because we had the two youngest, they were 19, 21. It was so enriching for them, and they realized that they have nothing to lose, but everything to win. Because when you do that, you exercise better your own discernment. So many bishops at the end of the synod, they really understood, but not just from their mind, but from an experience, that listening to the diversity of voices brings diverse perspectives, and then you discern better and you will take better decisions. The main takeaway of the synod is that we need the others, those who are different than us, because they have other lenses and they will help us to understand better a situation. So this notion of exchange of gift, you have it in many different parts of the final document, because it is to live the exchange of gift among the people of God, among men and women, among bishops and lay people, among people from different cultures, but it is also to live the exchange of gift among the different local churches. And that's why, and at the end I will share with you more like a roadmap for the implementation phase. It's how we continue our own journey, and only you in this diocese will really have the creativity and the understanding of your context to see how to implement synodality. There is not a magic, unique solution. It has to be discerned in the diversity of the context and cultures. But you will do it better if you have a way to share and learn from other local churches. So our perspective for the implementation phase is to help, you know, all the local churches to move forward, but not alone, to have a way to share best practices and experiences of synodality. We can say within a diocese among the different parishes or ecclesial communities, then within a country among the different dioceses, but then at the level of a continent, and then at the level of the universal church. And the second notion, but I have already highlighted it, that is really the, we can say the guiding thread of the final document, is conversion, personal and communal conversion. So to implement synodality is to open ways, we can say, to to embark on a path of conversion. It's not just to live the Lent season all the year, but the Lent season is going to, we will celebrate Easter. So it's a path of Paschal path of transformation for a kind of resurrection. And now I will conclude with just an overview of the different parts, because that gives also some key points to take into account. The first, but I have already talked a lot about it, is the heart of synodality. It's really the spirituality of synodality, so conversion. So it's about also very concretely to propose time of prayer, liturgy. For instance, now we will open a new study group coming out from the synod about liturgy and synodality. Because for many of us and for many people, you know, the first, not the first, but an important place to live the church and to live our Christian faith is through the liturgy, the Eucharist. Or how our liturgy express this synodal style, this synodal dimension of the Church, with the active participation of all the faithful. So that's very important. And it's also what will help, so it can be, you know, spiritual exercises, different things, what will help to help people to have this spiritual disposition for synodality. And the most important is humility and faith. And if we live this spirituality of synodality, we understand that we deepen our own understanding and experience of church, that is to be a sacrament or instrument of the intimate union with God and of the unity of all humanity. So living synodality helps us to deepen our own vocation as church, but also our own vocation. We are here, some are lay people, some are priests, some are religious, some are... If we live really synodality and the exchange of gifts, at the end, each one will deepen his or her own vocation. Because you deepen your own vocation when you live with others. So that's also really a vocational journey. Second part, and then you can also imagine different maybe proposals or my motto, you know, my motto is that synodality begins with a coffee. Or we can say with a beer. Maybe here it's better with a beer, with a meal. It's about a new way to live relationships as brothers and sisters. Relationship of fraternity, of conviviality, and relationships that highlight that we are all co-responsible for the mission of the Church. Nobody is higher. No. Of course, there are different responsibilities. I come back to my experience at the Synod. At a time, at the Second Assembly, I was on a round table with 3 cardinals, one very important with a prefect of the dicastery in Rome, 2 other cardinals, other bishops. And there was a young woman from Jordan, from Middle East. You know, the more you exercise and you experience synodality and the synodal method of conversation in the Spirit, the more you manage to do it. So the Second Assembly in Rome, there was a quality of listening that was really better than the first time. The first time there were some, you know, they were afraid of 1 second of silence. There were some who it was very difficult for them to stop after 3 minutes because everybody had 3 minutes. The Second Assembly, there was a quality of speaking and a quality of listening that was much more better. And we could see that all the voices really matter. And especially the Second Assembly, there were more women who were elected as reporters for their group. And this young woman of my group, really we could feel that she was speaking with authority. And she was very well listened to by the cardinals and the others. It was not like this the first day of the First Assembly. You know, it was a journey. It was a journey. So it's about building relationship, building trust, and we need patience. But, and that's a concrete, I know there are many among you who are very focused on the question of women. The Synod has highlighted an urgent call to foster women's participation in decision-making processes. So it's how we do it very concretely. I know there are already some experience, but the Assembly ask for full implementation of all the opportunities already provided for in canon law with regard to the role of women, particularly in those places where they remain underutilized. There are many things that can be done. You know, the canon law allows already many things. Maybe some would like more, and maybe it will come. But this paragraph on women, maybe you have read or seen that it was the paragraph with the greatest number of no. But it passed because it was more than 2/3. But what does it mean? It's very interesting because, you know, we need a consensus. So on those questions, we were able to go as far as it was possible with the people in the assembly. If we have been further, the paragraph wouldn't pass. So it's how you assess where to reflect the assembly. Maybe we want something else, but the reality is that in the universal church, you know, with the diversity of culture, of mentalities, that's where we stand. And if we want to move forward, it's mainly also about a change of mindset. How we, all of us, we are co-responsible to change the mindset, to get rid of patriarchalism that is in the society and also in the church. So, but we can already do a lot. And the most important is really to be together in the spirit of co-responsibility, and the synod asks, so that's something you can assess also in your different reality. The synod asks to have an increased participation of laymen and laywomen in the church discernment process and all phases of decision-making processes, and to position of responsibility. So that's something that then we can assess, and we have criteria. And I finish, because we still have just 3 minutes, by highlighting what is maybe also the most important, and that's the way to put into practice synodality for the implementation phase. It is about a new way of making decisions in the church with this ecclesial discernment for mission. So I remind what we have already highlighted. It's about a way of making decisions characterized by the widest possible participation, by processes of ecclesial discernment for mission, listening to the sensus fidei, listening to the Spirit speaking to all the baptized. You have very concrete steps that we have been able, with the experience of the synod, to highlight. So it's everywhere you have to take decisions, important decisions. I would say we can't do all the decisions maybe like this, but decision for the mission, we can follow and try to put into practice these steps for ecclesial discernment. And so what we try to also underline is to implement synodality in your own reality. So that can be your parish, your faculty, your congregation, your diocese, your movement, your caritas, and you can, how you have a way to discern together according to your mission, for the mission, listening to the need of the people, to the sign of the times, how you will have a way to experience this new way of making decisions in the church. And if you do that, like we did in the synod to draft the final document to give a roadmap to the whole church, you will take better decisions. Because I think many of you have experienced that. Even if we are very clever, or sometimes we have some charism, if you decide alone, you have only your own lenses. And in the world of today, that is a very complex world with many, many challenges, you know, how to be Christians, how to proclaim the gospel at the age of artificial intelligence. Do you have an easy answer? It's not directly written in the gospel. It's nobody alone. So you need to discern in this way. How to proclaim the gospel in a country like Austria or my country in France, where you have we are in a more and more secularized country. It's not easy. So you have also to do it together. So the Synod is trying to opening this way. And the best fruit of the Synod, and I let you with that, is really to experience and use, there may be some adaptation, but really this synodal method that we call conversation in the spirit, it's incredible because everywhere in the world, when they try to do it, it brings fruits, joy, and when people try it, they adopt it. Because, you know, at the end, the greatest lesson of the Synod is that everywhere in the world, all the people, what do they want? Their first need and their first request to the church. Do you know what it is? It's to be listened to. That's what the main thing that came out from the consultation. There is a huge need to be listened to from everybody from all over the world. All of us, we want to be listened to. So we need also to listen. And this method is really a way to listen to everybody and to speak, to dare to speak, and to build togetherness. And that's why, you know, it works, because it fits an anthropological need. So I will finish by letting you in this minute of silence, because I have already spoken too much. And if we want to continue in a synodal style, it's good that you can also speak, ask questions, but just take a few seconds of silence to let resonate what you have listened to.